today more than ever, there's no excuse to be held back from doing anything. Anybody with a smartphone can make a name for themselves doing anything. So, I mean, I'm proof. The proof's in the pudding. I was nothing 5 years ago in terms of a social media. I didn't even have an Instagram. And now, like I said, personally, there's almost 1 million followers between my accounts. And then on the back end, there's another 4 to 5 million that I'm kind of on the ghost side of it running. So you can create anything you want if you like. The key is finding your passion. If you're not passionate about it, you're not going to spend the time to do it. You're not going to see it through. You're not going to go through the grind. But if you have the passion for something and you want to do it, do whatever it takes. And like you said, you're not going to see a check for a long time. It's not about the money. It's about your passion. If you do what you love and you do it well, the money will find you. And so I think that's the theme. If you're going to put a bow on all this, that's kind of where it wraps up. And luckily for you and I, it's fishing based and we get to do what we love. I'm Rob Chapman with Outdoors360, and this is the Tom Rowland Podcast.
Hey, everybody. We have been uploading new shows to Waypoint TV. Waypoint is one of our advertisers here, but they're also a great place for us to put our shows that people can watch for free. And, man, that's the way everybody seems to be watching now. You want to watch anytime, anywhere, any device that you want to, and that's exactly what they do over there. I mean, Apple TV, Roku, your phone, your computer, your Samsung TV, your smart TV, any which way you want to watch, it's available. There's probably an app in the App Store for you to find it on your particular device. And if not, you can still go to waypointtv.com and watch all of the content for free, including all the new stuff that we've been putting up there. And this is all debuting before it hits the network. So pretty cool. And we're not the only ones doing it either. Other producers are debuting their stuff on Waypoint TV. So that's where you go and find the freshest, newest content. And if you want to know more about it, you can follow them on Waypoint TV on Instagram, waypointtv.fishing, waypointtv.boating, waypointtv.hunting. Those are their Instagram accounts, and you can learn all about what new content is available. And if you want to, you can follow me, my own personal account, Tom_Rowland. I put up a lot of stuff about this podcast, the guests, when I interview someone. You can kind of see what's coming. You can make contact with me there. You can make suggestions about the podcast or anything else, as well as fishing and fitness and all kinds of other stuff that I put up there. We have a website, TomRowlandPodcast.com, and you can always email me at podcast@Saltwater Experience, and I appreciate the emails that I get every single week. You guys are the best. You're awesome. And if you like this show, I would really appreciate it if you go rate and review it on iTunes. All right, today's episode is with another gentleman who has just decided that he wants to follow his passion. And his passion is telling stories. And his forte is telling stories in a certain way that it really captivates people's attention. And he is a guy that really was a very early adopter of digital storytelling, both on social media, websites, blogging, all of that. He created a business called Outdoors360. He is Rob Chapman. And Rob Chapman is a very interesting guy. He's got an awesome story. I learned a ton. I've got so many questions about social media and digital and how it all works. And, man, he seems to really know, and he has built a really incredible social media following in just a few years. So I was very, very excited to go, and I actually went and visited him at his house and saw what he's all about, and I was very impressed with what I learned. He was a super nice guy, and I learned a ton. I think you're going to learn a ton too. So stand by for this conversation with Rob Chapman of Outdoors360. So we're rolling.
All right.
Rob, thanks for sitting down, man.
Appreciate it. Nice to meet you in person.
Yeah, I know. I've seen you on the internet like everywhere.
Yeah.
Probably. I mean, seriously, everywhere.
Try to do a little bit of everything. Fishing, hunting, aquariums, anything outdoors.
Yeah.
Silly, fun, educational. So yeah.
So Outdoors360, that's
Yes.
your business. How did that start?
That's my baby. I mean, I kind of guess a lot of the themes of your shows are your passion, and my passion is the outdoors. So grew up fishing and spent all my time outside. I just played sports or I was fishing. I never really was indoors.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up born in Sarasota, Florida, grew up in Bradenton, Florida.
Okay.
So spent a lot of time on the beaches and on the boats and soccer fields and baseball fields, and pretty much spent any weekend outdoors. And then as soon as I got home from school, I was outdoors.
Mm-hmm. Did you prefer hunting or fishing or just anything?
We actually
outside?
did do a lot of hunting. There are not a lot of deer in Bradenton where I grew up. So it was definitely fishing. At different points in Sarasota, it was more saltwater. And then I think when I was probably about 10 or 11, we moved to a house with their own little pond. And I spent all day that if I wasn't on the ball field, I was in the pond, cast netting, fishing for catfish, bass, bluegill, shiners, cane pole. I mean, it didn't matter. I was in the pond. I was in the rowboat and, whatever, just playing around with the fish.
Yeah. And then, so at what point do you kind of decide that you think you might be able to make $1 doing this, or that you want to pursue this kind of direction in your life?
Well, that's a tricky question because it took a long time to make $1 off of it. So it's one of the first things I always tell people when I talk about Outdoors360 and how it started. And what I do now is you're going to fail and you're going to fail again and again and again. And it took a good year and a half to almost 2 years to get the sponsors behind the show, or to actually not even the sponsors, I shouldn't say that, to get the actual investors from the start. So I had a vision. I wanted to do something with the outdoors and to get more people outside and to bring it into digital media. This was probably 5 or 6 years ago. So Instagram was really new at that point. I don't even think I was on Instagram. So we were leveraging Facebook quite a bit. And I wanted to almost start a blog at the time and write about my stories. And so I write for a paper locally and do a lot of local articles. And what I found is that almost half my readers don't even fish or hunt. They just like the stories. So I had a pretty unique audience in a different cross section of people from all ages and all likes, but they just like the stories. They like the entertainment value. So it was really technical in the beginning. It was a lot of education. And then I kind of started switching to people like the stories more. So I got into the fun side of it. And once I started telling the fun side of the stories, the website kind of blew up from there. And then we went into viral articles and different things and got less technical and more entertainment.
Yeah. So, but what's interesting is that you're starting out writing. Now, is that because you have a background in writing or journalism or anything?
So I'll be quite honest. I don't think I'm a very good technical writer at all. Again, you'll probably hear that theme in everything I do. Technically, I don't think I'm that strong in the writing or the back end of different things. But I write from the perspective of what I think my readers would like, and it's more for entertainment. So my grammar is probably not the best, but it's kind of a free flowing. I mean, I think we've talked about like Adam Carolla and Joe. Yeah. Some of these guys just shoot from the hip, and that's kind of how I write. I shoot from the hip. Technically, definitely not the strongest, but to me, it was about the fun and the entertainment and kind of bringing readers into my world. And so it's funny, when I first started it was definitely a lot more about how and why I fished. And then it became, when you're writing and you can bring people into your world, you control what they see and what they feel and what they envision the stories going. So it's kind of cool to be able to kind of switch your mindset to write to the point that these people are following along and they have no idea what's about to happen. So right. I kind of took a lot of pride in writing stories that kind of brought people in, and it wasn't just about fishing. It was about my dog, or it was about a road trip, or it was about my girls or my wife, the family and my wife and different things. So it evolved, definitely. This whole thing, the theme of Outdoors360 is it's organic. I had no idea what direction it was going to go. It's changed direction so many times. We've pivoted so many times, but the theme is it's get people outdoors. I've got a passion for the outdoors and people that normally aren't in the outdoors. If you can, I guess if they're watching the video at home, they can see out the backyard is Lake Jeffrey in Lake City, Florida. And I think at this point now, I've had over 25 people come out and catch their first fish ever off the dock. So, and we actually just finished a science experiment 2 days ago off the dock. So that was kind of my theme, is to get new people in the outdoors. I think that's the biggest, you're passionate. You grew up fishing, and a lot of your guests that fish probably have had it in their blood all along. To me, I want to grow the audience that's got some fear about it. Yeah, I'm not that good of a fisherman. I don't know how to use this right now, and I don't claim to be the best. What I do wherever I go, I learn from those that are around me. So,
well, there's a real need certainly for people who, especially with YouTube and the rise of YouTube and fishing popularity on YouTube, that some kids are watching that and they're going to their parents and they're saying, "I want to do that," and then the parents don't have any idea what to do.
Absolutely,
there is a real need for that. Do you work on trying to get those people, like, this parent that is now, their kid comes up to them and says, I want to go fishing, which is a great thing because they're going to put down the video game. They're going to get outside.
Absolutely.
They're going to have time together with the parents. But then there's this intimidation factor of, wow, okay, you want to go fishing? Seems kind of dangerous.
Oh, absolutely. And that is the big, and some of the people that I've taken from CEOs to just some brilliant people are so intimidated by fishing. And to me, it's just second nature. You tie a couple loops of the hook, you pull it through. So yeah, that's absolutely a factor, is that these young kids, and they love the YouTube in terms of, you've got Monster Mike and Ketchum, all these guys that are just more entertainers. I mean, they're fantastic fishermen, but they see the fun in it, which is great. To me, fishing is less about catching the fish than about having a good time. Because you're not always going to, as you know, you're not always going to catch fish. They're not going to cooperate. So yeah, there's that learning curve, and it's funny to me because I guess I jump into anything blind and know I'm going to be an idiot and probably screw up a bunch, so I don't worry about it. But people are very intimidated about our sport, and I hate to say it like this, but it's not that complicated. No. People really overcomplicate it. So first thing I always do is tie or show them a simple way to tie a hook, and there's not even a technical name for it. I work with Mustad hooks, and so we've shot a couple videos, and I just loop it through. I just tie about 4 loops, pull it through, tie one more safety knot, and pull it. I mean, when you're fishing for bluegills and bass or trout, some of the smaller fish when you're first starting, you don't need to get overly technical. And so part of it is just that, and then it's learning how to cast. And so that is definitely a factor. So the 2 kids, they were twins that were doing the science experiment, and the mom she's fished a little bit. So yeah, that was actually this past weekend is a prime example of, she's newish to fishing. The boys love it.
Yeah.
And so, like she said, they lived on the water. They'd be out there all day. So yeah, that's definitely a factor, is getting over that hump. And again, it's not complicated. And that's kind of what I want to do with my videos, is show in my writing that you don't have to be an expert. It's as easy as, to me, when you want to start fishing, I'd start with bluegill. Go in your backyard, throw some bread and a small hook and a small bobber. Just get the kids used to it. During the science experiment, we were using little minnows trying to catch crappie and brim. We ended up catching 4 or 5 bass. So you just never know. I mean, I think that's why you probably love fishing too, is you never know what you're going to get into. And yeah, you can dial it in technically. And yeah, you've got guys that are diehard and have done it all their lives, but the audience for fishing is so much bigger than the guys and girls that are already doing it. It can be anybody.
Yeah.
I think once you get a taste of that and you catch your first fish, and then you get your first excitement, and then once you start stepping it up, and I know when my daughter caught her first tarpon, just the exhilaration on her face and the power and the speed of something like that. So
there is a lot to be said for stepping it up and not having your first experience being the tarpon or the sailfish or something, but stepping it up and working from the bluegill all the way up to the blue marlin. I think that you appreciate your experience
Definitely.
more than just going out and all of a sudden you catch a 130-pound tarpon.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, you've thrown everything out of whack the second you do that. Yeah. So yeah, you're in Mexico on your honeymoon, and you go out and you catch 10 marlin your first trip ever. You're probably never going to enjoy blue.
Well, that was fun.
Yeah. and they make it look so easy. And then, as you know, living in the U.S., and a lot of fishing really depends on where you're at and what you have access to. But it's kind of, my wife and I, my daughter's in gymnastics, and to use this analogy is, we're talking about what level she's at, and she's competitive. She's doing great. She's come a long way. But my theory is always kind of the Tiger Woods theory from Earl Woods. His dad always said, master your competition and your level. Learn to dominate what you're doing. So I always believe, start with the foundation. Don't try to catch a marlin your first fish. Start small. Take the baby steps. Learn to tie the hooks. Learn to cast. And then, my favorite fishing now of all the different things, and I go all over the world, is power fishing. I think C.A. Richardson uses that term, but it's during the winter. It's right now off of our coast, and it's on your feet 10 to 12 hours a day, and you're blind casting as far as you can throw, and you're working lures all day. And 95% of the people that come out there with us can't hang. They've got to sit down, take a break. You just get worn out. But it took me a long time to get to that level. And I appreciate it because of every step that it took to get there.
Right. But the power fishing, that's pretty fun. We have barracuda fishing in the Keys, which is kind of like that, where you just throw it as far as you can possibly throw it, reel it as fast as you possibly can. And over the course of a day with your customers, they're reeling in miles of line.
Absolutely.
Miles and miles.
And as you know, there's no secret to that. That's what I tell people. They'll see these pictures and they'll go out the same day and catch, and this isn't meant to be bragging, but they'll catch, I don't know, we may catch 100 redfish and trout, and they'll catch 5 to 10. Well, what time did you get on the water? We're there at daybreak. what time did you start fishing? What kind of lures are you using? How many breaks did you, there's so many variables. We get out and we're fishing at daybreak and we fish till we go to the ramp and maybe sit and eat in between spots and just, like you said, you're throwing miles and miles of casts and there's no shortcuts. I mean, there are times where you can fish in certain areas and you're fishing in a little hole or a creek, whatever it might be. But that power fishing in the open salt water to me is as fun as it gets because you literally never know.
Yeah.
A couple trips ago, we had now it's sad, but it was a frozen, I think you remember seeing the picture, it was about a 40-pound snook that had frozen overnight. But
yeah.
in the middle of somewhere it should have never been. And if it hadn't been as cold, we may have had a shot at that when you just never anticipate that at all. So to me, that's the best thing about that power fishing. You just never know. It could be a cobia, it could be a snook, it could be a shark.
Mm-hmm.
It could be anything.
Then the way you have a slightly different angle on all of this, like you're experiencing a great day like that, and then you're retelling this story. What I notice with a different pair of glasses on, like you're seeing something in that experience that is being told slightly differently.
Oh, absolutely.
Like what is your angle on that? Is that just something that you're seeing and that's what's interesting to you? Or you're saying, you know what, there's something more to this that's going to open itself to a larger audience than just somebody that wants to know what lure we're fishing with?
Yeah, I think that's the key is with anything you do, if you want to get overly technical, you can. And I'm sure you can, and I'm sure I could in terms of fishing, get into the nitty gritty of what size hooks and what pound leader. But 90% of people that are watching my videos on Instagram or anywhere on Facebook or they don't care. They're going to get it. They're going to buy probably all-in-one setup. They're going to have the line there. So yeah, I like to tell it more from how do we get into this or what. If you get really technical too, you can even follow, and as I'm sure you know too from guiding and being a captain, is you can pattern fish. And why are they here at low tide? Why are they here at high tide? What does the barometric pressure do to the fish? Pre-front. There's so many variables. And I love that end of it. I mean, I'd love to get technically into that end of it and journal it. But again, that's a niche that's so exclusive for the die-hard guys. Most people don't care. So I like to kind of tell from the perspective of the entertainment value. And so half my pictures are, the fish we catch, but then it's I ran my thigh or hit my, hit my shin on the trailer. In the video, the knot in your shin gets 100,000 views versus the big trout gets 5,000 views. So you just never know. So that's what's funny about when you start looking at social media is it's totally different than how you or I as diehard fishermen see everything. It's the people that are just coming by for the entertainment and seeing it and saying, no, that can happen. I like to tell it because we make a ton of mistakes. We do a ton of stupid things. So don't be intimidated by making mistakes because you're going to make mistakes all the time. You're going to get hooks in you. One of my most popular pictures ever, I bump it every 6 months, is a 6-aught mustad hook completely through my finger. And I was fishing with Captain Jimmy Nelson and Louisa down in St. Pete, and a through and through. And, about 10 minutes later, after numbing it with an ice cube and wiggling it back and forth, it ended up popping out. But it happens to everybody.
Yeah.
You can't be afraid to go out there and make mistakes because your line's going to get tangled, especially if you're fishing with braid. You're going to get wind knots. And so, yeah, get over the intimidation, have fun. Yeah, you're going to screw up, but have some fun with it.
So when you're thinking about kind of moving down this road and journaling this stuff, you mentioned that you were kind of envisioning Outdoors360 in the beginning as being a blog. What is it? I mean, we're going back quite a number of years. What is it that made you believe that the future was digital rather than, working for a conventional magazine or why did you have the foresight of the digital future?
Yeah,
so to speak.
And I think it can even go back further. When I was in college in the late 90s, I wanted to go into medical school. I wanted to be a physical. I wanted to do all these different things. And a guy I really respected was a physical therapist and a highly successful one. He helped me all the time with my baseball injuries. I asked him when I was about to make that pivot in my life, where am I going to go? What direction? And he said, I go into computers. This is the late 90s. I mean, the internet was just, people listen to this may say this, it seems like it was 100 years ago, but 20 years ago, the internet was just brand new. So he said, go into computers. So I went into computers that time. And when I started really looking, like I said, Outdoors360 was a blog. I wanted to try to get ahead of the curve, I guess, and see what people were actually digesting and where they were digesting it at. And 5 years ago, I didn't have an Instagram page. So all of my Instagram followers now, have all happened in the last 2 to 3 years. So I'm actually, I guess you could say, a little late to the game, but now that, kind of started to crack the code and the algorithms and different things, but that's what moves the needle is it's the digital and the social media. And so, yeah, you can have a great product, but it was just like when I did art, because I did art for a number of years and wanted to be the next Guy Harvey. You could be the best artist on the planet, but if you don't know how to market yourself and people don't see it, what good does it do you? So I really got into trying to find ways to market myself with the artwork back in the day. It used to be old Florida sports and forums and different things, back again, the old days, then the late 90s and early 2000s, it was forums. Forums was social media before there was social media. So now, as it evolved in the social media, I kept saying, where's that audience that I used to have? Well, it all started coming to social media. So once we started going, and then, you can't be stubborn at all in digital media. If you're stubborn, you're going to be left behind in 3 months, if not faster. And so what really moved the needle for us was the viral articles. So instead of all these technical articles, and my brother's a great technical writer, and he does his own YouTube page, and he's fantastic. He developed his own jig heads. Very, very technical. What did 100 times better than that was some crazy gorilla chasing a boat in Africa video would get 100 times views. So we started parlaying those views into more subscribers and that kind of thing. So it just kind of, it was very organic in the beginning, seeing what direction, what people wanted to see the most. And then we found that it was about 92.5% of our traffic on our website came from our Facebook page, which most of that was from these viral articles. So yeah, I found out really quick within about a year that entertainment was way more valuable than the actual nuts and bolts and technical stuff.
Yeah. So you're seeing that Facebook is driving the website, and I don't know where the revenue comes from. I don't even know how you make any money off of what you do, and I'd be interested in learning that. But like what happened to me was I was on those forums. I was booking a lot of trips off the forums. Then I get a website. Now I'm channeling those forum people over to the website and booking even more trips through that, because I had one of the first websites of any Florida Keys fishing guide. And it's a strange story because, unlike you, I was horribly intimidated by computers. I could barely type. I don't know why I was an early adopter, but for some reason, I do know. It was because I thought I could keep a journal better in a digital format on the computer. Mm-hmm. So I bought a computer that didn't even have a modem and was just trying to keep a journal.
Yeah.
And that was just of my fishing day. And I thought maybe if I write down incoming tide, I could search incoming tide. Absolutely. And I could see all these places where I had written that out. Somebody told me that you could do that. And I was like, oh, that sounds really good. Like, that would be very valuable. So I get this little Apple laptop, and it doesn't have a modem. And then you could buy the thing that you plugged into it, right? So
absolutely.
So I get this, and I somehow got online. AOL. Still have my AOL address. Permitfly4 at AOL, in case anybody wants to send me an email. I'd still check that. AOL has always been the best for email. You can laugh about it, whatever, man.
Mid-90s, I remember.
I don't think I've ever missed an email from that service.
No, and they've been around 25.
I know.
Yeah,
it's
we're talking like we're dinosaurs now, but it really wasn't that long ago.
It seems a long time ago. But anyway, so I ended up building a website somehow. I was kind of like, well, okay. I remember one of my clients saying, yeah, you should have a website. Thinking, what is it? I don't even know what that is, right? Yeah. And it's like you would see www. something something something, and it looked like Sanskrit. Like you didn't know what it was.
And the original logins was that
right. Yeah, so I ended up getting this guy from Canada to build me a website. But what ended up happening was took the forum people that I was talking to, and it was probably only about, it seemed like a lot. It was probably only about 15 or 20 people.
Yeah.
They're on this forum, and you're talking to them, and end up booking some trips. I could still remember the first trip I ever booked off of online. I still talk to this guy today, and he booked
you knew
me
nothing about at the time. That's what people don't. Now you're all connected, but back then you had no idea who anybody was.
Man. And I thought he booked me for a trip to the Marquesas, and I've even asked him to this day. I'm like, did what did you think
yeah,
about
what
that?
were you doing on your
Had
end?
you ever done that
Yeah.
before? And he's like, no, that was the first time I had ever done that before.
Yeah, it was
So
a
it's
wild,
like, meet
wild
me at
west.
Garrison Bite Marina, and we'll go to at this time.
Yeah.
I don't have a phone number. I don't have anything. And it's a complete online booking. First one ever. And I'm kind of like, am I going to get killed out there?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, what is this?
And this is
Who
pre-cell
this?
phones too.
Right.
That's what people don't
Exactly.
understand. None of this, there were no cell phones.
Exactly. And I thought maybe I was going to get killed. I've asked him the same thing, and he was like, yeah, man, I didn't know. And so, it was like real tense and real quiet till about midday. And we're like, hold on. This guy is just like everybody that calls me on the telephone. In fact, he's smarter. Like, he's on the cutting edge. And so then after that, I started booking tons of trips. The website took over the forum, and I even created my own forum. And I had all these people coming to my own forum. And then, okay, so that grows. And then with the show, stuff grows. And then it's the website. The website is our focus until Facebook and until Instagram. And then the website and the forum gets full of spam. We can't even control it. Shut the forum down. And then start to not even pay attention to the website.
Absolutely.
Because everything's happening on social, but the website's still important. So what did that look like for you? Like when you're seeing social media take off, but maybe did you neglect the website like I did?
It's an interesting point, because what ended up happening is it's Facebook drove our traffic the first 2 or 3 years, and still drives our traffic. I think we're at, I don't know, 350,000 followers. I don't even keep up to it at this point on Facebook. And then our Instagram, 2 pages combines about 500,000. So, and then my personal, we're at about 1 million followers between me and Outdoors360. And between those 1 million followers, you're hitting with almost every post every day. When you talk about monetizing your product, well, you can't monetize. So I guess you can. We don't need to get into that, but our monetization model was drive them to the website. And so our sponsors of the website, or our sponsors, whatever they might be, they're getting their value from the ads on our website. So yeah, that was a primary focus very early on, was to drive traffic to the website. And so that way our sponsors were seen. Then we even started leveraging it more kind of from that side, was let's get them into every hashtag, or let's give them a mention in every time we post on Instagram. So that way, if whoever follows us will then see who our sponsors are and can click right over to them. And I know you and I have used this term a lot. A rising tide floats all ships, or rises all ships, however you want to say that. It's absolutely true in social media. Those algorithms kick in, and once you have all these different pages. So, our focus was early, get the people on the Facebook, get the likes up, but then how do you convert that? Our conversion was get them to the website. And to get them to the website, it was entertaining. It was viral articles.
And then you're making any revenue based upon how many people you're getting and how many clicks those banner ads. I mean, we're stepping through like time capsule.
Absolutely.
But just
banner
ads used to be like that was where it was. There was some real value there. And so, but you're not really selling product at this point.
And so what we learned is, because also running this company and doing the content, I also was the salesman for it. So just like you wear every hat you can. Yeah. When you start a business, people think you can outsource or do it. No, you need to do everything. You cannot be afraid. If you're afraid, you're not going to sell anything, because you don't know what any potential sponsor might want. So to me, my entire sale switched from, like, just like you said, it was banner ads. We were getting 20 million hits a month on our website. My focus switched about 2 years ago to saying, what can we bring you for value? What do you want? So one of our McDuffie Marine here in Lake City, their primary goal was some of the boats that they supply, or whatever it might be. They have a boat show coming up. So then we leveraged our social media to promote them. So you've got to be flexible. You've got to be organic. But to me, once you get that audience, and like I said, we're at close to 1 million all told, then you can move the needle whatever direction you want. And you can say to your potential sponsors, what do you want to have happen? Do you want traffic to your website? Do you want banner ads? Or would you rather have social media shout outs once a week? And we say, okay, we're having a boat show, and we drive our people that direction. So yeah, you have to be, I don't think you can go in anymore in terms of selling and say, here's what we do, A, B, C, which package do you want? I think you go in and say, we don't have a package. What do you want? What can we do for you? And so that's where we came in. We totally customize everything now.
Do you find that people actually know? I mean, like,
no,
I talk to a lot of sponsors, and some people are like, well, we want to spend more in digital. And I say, okay, what does that mean to you? Because there's a lot. I mean, now,
It's a lot of
what
tentacles.
we're doing right now is digital.
Yep.
This is a podcast. This could be considered digital. This social media, you got websites, you've got YouTube, you've got all kinds of things. And so, what does that mean? Like, how do you run into
absolutely.
that? And then you have to kind of lead and say, well, look, this is what we do.
Yep.
And this is what somebody else has done. This is where we've had some success, and let's customize something,
Absolutely. It's totally custom, and it has to be. And there's a lot of education, because a lot of these, what's funny is you look at some of the biggest boat companies on the planet, their social media is horrible. I mean, I hate to say it that directly, but it's not hard. Here's the thing I tell everybody. There are some secrets to our industry on the back end, on the social media and the algorithms and how you work that. But what you see is what you get. It's the old web design program, WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. I can't hide what I'm doing to drive our organic numbers, because everybody can see it. And to your credit, I know we've talked in the past about some other projects you have, is you have to be willing to evolve and see what others are doing, because there's still, when this podcast we're talking now, it's January 2019, July of 2019, things could completely change.
Yeah,
the algorithm, I mean, it is so lightning fast, and so you have to be watching what others are doing. I think that's one of my biggest strengths, and one of your biggest strengths, to credit to as you've evolved, is you can try to think you know everything. You don't know anything, because it's going to change so quickly. So I'm always watching. You're always watching. We text each other. We pick each other's brains. And I think once you get in with, there's another podcaster, I think it's Entrepreneur on Fire, but he talks about you're an average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. I try to surround myself with whatever industry I'm in, 5 people. So I've got a good core of 5 social media influencers that have massive accounts that we constantly ping back and forth. And what I think is a great idea, they may think is the stupidest thing they've ever heard, and vice versa. So yeah, you've got to stay on top of it. So when you go to these sponsors or these potential advertisers, a lot of them, like you said, there's a big time intimidation factor on their end from the digital end. A lot of them don't run their own social media. Maybe they outsource, or maybe they have a guy that once in a while posts. So that was another kind of offshoot of what happened with Outdoors360 and me personally. Was a lot of companies came to me and said, what are you doing to make Outdoors360 grow? And I tell them all, well, I can't just tell you everything, but I can give you some tips. Constant content, quality content. There's a couple things, no matter what, that you have to do. And so it kind of sprung into my side business that was running social media for these companies, because that was of more value to them than actually getting ads on something. Because like you said, the main funnel now, when you look up any company, is you go to their social media. Right. You don't go to Bass Pro or a company where you buy products. It's a little bit different, but any other company that I hear for the first time, I go to their Instagram or their Facebook and see what they're putting out there, what people are saying about it. And so you have to be on your game on social media at all times, and then work with other companies that are doing it, and it all works together. But yeah, that's where the evolution of it personally came from, is as I saw what 360 needed, I saw what these other companies needed. And then from there, my tentacles, in terms of the back end on social media, now I think, I don't know if you ran all the numbers of all the different pages I kind of work with on the back end, it's in 5 to 6 million followers combined. So it's, and a lot of them are public, and we don't talk about it, and that's fine. But that's where these companies have to be aware where you're spending your money. Like you said, digital media. What is digital media? It's whatever you want it to be. Right. And you have to be smart about your buys and your product. And I think, as you know, branding is everything. So stay on point with your brand.
I find that, it seems like, social media is so fluid, and there's so many different platforms on social media. I mean, just take the 3 that are the most popular right now: Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Each one has content that does well on that one. And if you try to put that content on the other pages, it's just not the right platform.
1,000%.
It's just not the right fit for that particular audience. Like if you try to cram a podcast into Twitter somehow, people are on Twitter because they want
3 to
short,
5 second
tiny
snippets.
little bites, and they want to scroll through a whole bunch of stuff. So trying to, there's certain products that are going to sell really well. There's certain companies that are going to benefit greatly from Twitter. There are others that it's just going to be a dud. Totally.
Definitely.
And the same for Instagram, and the same for Facebook,
Yep.
and the same for Snapchat, and the same for YouTube, and the same for TV shows, and the same for online shows, and the same for all of this stuff. It just seems like now there just seems to be so many more options and so many more strategies that each individual, each company, each brand, each product needs to kind of experiment a little bit.
Absolutely.
And do you think that that's the case, that you kind of find the path of least resistance and then take off down it? Or do you, I mean, like, say for instance, there's a Pinterest or something that may seem like the path of least resistance, but it's not a real popular, I mean, it's popular among some people, I guess, but
there's a certain demographic.
It's certainly not as popular as Instagram.
Uh,
So, but if that's the path of least resistance, is that where you should be spending your time? Like, if you put something up there and you're getting an overwhelmingly better response on that particular platform than on a popular platform, is that where you should be spending your time?
That's a great point, because there's several great points. Because what I've found is, especially for us with Outdoors360, so it's kind of a two-part answer. Outdoors360, our Facebook content is completely different than our Instagram content. So, like you said, Instagram, it's those. There's a couple keys to Instagram, but obviously it's 15 to 60 seconds is your video range typically. Some are shorter. That doesn't translate as well to Facebook. And Facebook we use as a tool with our stories and our content to drive them to the website. So Facebook is more geared towards content, more reading, more directing them to the website. Instagram's just, hey, get likes. I mean, you don't need to overcomplicate it. Instagram is get likes, get followers. Don't hammer them with messages at this point. Maybe build it into your bio or whatever it might be, or click on the stories. The stories Instagram. So bigger picture, what you're talking about. To me, we really focus on Facebook, Instagram. Twitter doesn't really have any value to me in terms of what outdoor. I've not seen it work well for any outdoor company. That's not just me and our brand or you and your brand. I think that goes across the board. I follow for sports and entertainment, whatever it might be. But it's like you said, it's quick snippets. In the outdoors, it doesn't really work like that. So, the Instagram now, what I love about Instagram, and that's my primary focus between that and Facebook, is the fact that Snapchat has grown and is incredibly popular in the sub 30 crowd, I guess you could call it now. Instagram's doing everything Snapchat's doing, and Instagram's not going anywhere. So I try to really focus in on Instagram and Facebook. And yeah, in the periphery, we do some Pinterest stuff as well. I mean, you want to touch, kind of like you said, we wanted to touch everything. So we had pages we had a YouTube page, we had pages for everything. But what brought our business the most success was Instagram and Facebook. Facebook specifically, the website, Instagram just in terms of brand name. Because we don't really, if you ask what is Outdoors360, some people say maybe it's a clothing company or they do funny. We don't really have an end goal. We just wanted to build a brand. What's crazy is, and as you know, you travel and you go to ICAST and you go to these different things. Everybody knows who we are. We're kind of Switzerland. We don't have any enemies. We've never really sided with any products or made any strong stands. We're everywhere. We're kind of like the Ryan Seacrest of the outdoors. Everybody likes us because we're nice to everybody and we've got a big presence. But everybody knows who we are, but nobody knows what we do. But that to me, that's a good thing because we can pivot at any point. But we built a brand just strictly on people seeing us on social media. They know the name. They don't know necessarily what we do, and we have never really pushed gear. We've never really sold out and decided we're going to go in a certain direction. So, yeah, you can build a brand from nothing and make it a huge brand just strictly on social media now.
I think that there's one thing that you can build a brand. It's another thing to have that actually produce any sort of revenue that would allow you to pivot your life in this direction. There's tons of people that run good social media accounts, but they have other jobs or they do whatever, and they just are not. I mean, I can't figure out like where's the value here? Because it just seems like if you rewound back to 10 years ago, the value was extremely simple in almost everything that we do. It just seems like the social media world and the digital world has complicated things to a great degree, that yes, you can build these big pages and yes, you can have a lot of people looking at your stuff and following you. but does that actually turn into any take-home value?
Yeah, does it translate?
Right. And if it does turn into take-home value, to who? Like is it to you, or the owner of the company, or is it to a sponsor that wants to be part of this, or is it to somebody that wants to sell a product? Or like, I just think that a lot of people look at it, and I wondered. I mean, even at the beginning of the internet and what was going on, you would have these websites that would offer a very convenient tool for free.
Mm-hmm.
They just wanted you to come and get your credit checked, or
Yep.
they wanted you to, be able to search something. Google. Like, okay, so this thing is free and I can search anything in the world. How are they making money? And just for a long time, it was unclear to everyone.
Well,
But
even
obviously,
Amazon.
Google has made plenty.
And they took a lot. And you look at Amazon, I think they were in the negative for 10, 15 years. I mean, whatever the numbers are in there, it does. You have to have a long-term plan. Everything. It's a great point, because when you see social media, it's bang, bang, bang. It's instant feedback, but there's no short-term plays in it. It's when you build organically on social media, it takes a while. And I always say with the Instagram, it takes 3 months for what I do and how I do it to actually kick into the algorithms and to start to see results. Because especially some of these, I bought and sold pages on Instagram and changed names. You're switching up what people are used to, and all of a sudden you're going to naturally lose people, and they're going to be afraid with the new name. So you have to build your brand strategically. Yeah, if you're looking at it from the perspective of you got XYZ business, where do you spend your money? Like you said, 10 years ago, it was easy. It was print, radio, TV.
Mm-hmm.
Easy. Everything was tangible. You had your eyeball. Now with TV, and that's why, if I can give a shout out to Waypoint TV.
Yeah.
The traditional TV, my daughters don't watch TV. What's funny is last night, they're on Netflix and they're on YouTube and they're on, I guess it's Musical.ly now. I don't even know what the thing is, but they never get on traditional TV. So last night we were watching Wheel of Fortune. Just by coincidence, there's a fire, so we put the fire in, and they see a commercial for America's Got Talent. Like, we didn't know it was on. They love that show, but they don't even watch TV to know it's on. So the sub 20 generation now, traditional TV is going to be gone. The only reason I watch traditional TV is for sports, which is why I love Waypoint TV and the concept behind that, because once I got into there and saw all the shows I was DVRing or waiting to watch, now I can watch them at any time on demand. To me, that's where the future is, and that's where everything's going. So how do you bring your digital media into that social media? Well, it's just brand awareness. What's the name? What do you do? And like you said, it was so easy 5-10 years ago. You had your marketing budget, and I worked for a college in the state of Florida, and we had a marketing budget, and it was set every year. And a traditional newspaper was probably a third to a quarter of that budget. Radio was a third to a quarter of that budget, and magazines, traditional print. And so now it's completely altered. And the trickiest part, as you mentioned, is how do you know what your results are? You don't know in social media. It's almost like your play has to be on faith that your brand is associated with this brand, and they're going to bring you the eyeballs. There's a lot of trust and a lot of faith, but there's not a lot of tangible results.
That is really interesting for you to say that, because it seemed like, you put an ad in the yellow pages. That is where you really don't know how it's working, except for when people call. Oh, how'd you find our number? Oh, looked in the yellow pages. Okay, then you get some feedback. But how many other people are coming in because they saw you in the yellow pages? And then beyond that, it's like you do a radio ad.
How do you know?
How would you possibly know? You don't even have Nielsen ratings on that. The radio station says, oh, we're in 500,000 cars on the way to work or whatever. Yeah. And then on TV, you've got Nielsen ratings that are strange. I mean, there's all kinds of
variables
like P+2. Like if you're watching, if there's a TV on, somebody's probably watching it, but is that 2 people watching it or 4
what's your
people,
average per household?
Sports bar? Are people really into it? But you would really have no idea. Talk about going on faith.
Yeah.
And then now we have social media, which there are analytics on basically everything, insights on every single post, but you're saying you have no idea if it's working.
Yeah, that's what there's one, you mentioned it with banner ads with the click-through rates. Mm-hmm. So you can see that, and here's the credit. I'm going to kind of flip it back. The credit to social media now, especially with Instagram and Facebook, is their analytics. So especially with the stories, like you can track the stories, how many people actually click through. To me, you brought up a point that I would say 95% of marketers 10 years ago said they knew where their money was going in TV, newspapers, radio. And when I started controlling that budget for college, and then with my own, with Rob Chapman Art, when I did my own art, and then with Outdoors360, I took ads in Florida Sports Magazine. Well, they'd have, I don't know, I'm going to say a number, 250,000 subscribers. How many actually saw my fish poker ad in there? I don't know. I sold a bunch of prints, but do I know how many there were? No. So you went, there's a lot of faith in that too, was, there's 9.9 million people watching this NFC championship game. How many of them actually watched it live? Or like you said, there's 10 people in the room, or there are 5 TVs on and there's one person in the house and they're going between them. Newspapers always just sold in the fact that they had this amount of subscription. But how many people actually go through the whole newspaper? How many actually open it? Same with magazines, and they talk about their shelf life. So I've been on both sides of it. I've tried to sell ads and I've tried to buy ads. And it's just funny how everybody says it was so easy, and it was, you could wrap your mind around it 5-10 years ago. But this comes back to when we talk about training and educating sponsors now, is you can say to them, hey, log in, check out these analytics. It's unbelievable what you can see on the back end of Facebook. And that's why they've gotten in a lot of trouble, because you can see everything. It's kind of like Pandora's box once you get in the back end of it. So yeah, once you're partner with a company and you run an ad, do you know what everything does? No, but you can really see the impressions and the eyeballs and the click-throughs. And I think, as you know, with Instagram and Facebook, you can see the clicks to the bio, clicks on the links. And so they've done a really good job of being able to show businesses, here's our value to you, because now all of a sudden you can track it. So yeah, digital media, it's a lot of it is branding, but a lot of it now is, what do you want your results to be?
Right.
Do you know if they're clicking on your bio? Are they going all the way through? Are they downloading Waypoint TV? You hope so. Do you know all of them aren't? All of them are? No. But you bring it, you're constantly hitting that name. It's just like Outdoors360. Do you see that name, Outdoors360, Outdoors360? What is it? I don't know, but I've heard of it. Now I'm familiar with it. Okay, now what are they selling? So there's different steps and different levels to it.
When I first started guiding, my friend Simon Becker, he told me he had a theory, and I don't know if he got this from someone else or if he created it on his own, but he said, people have to see your name 7 times before they're going to call you. And so, and his advice to me was, that can be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
Like, you can just be a guide, and, somebody says, who's that over there? Oh, well, that's Tom Rowland, or that's Simon Becker. And so there's one.
There's one, yeah.
And then maybe you fish in a tournament and they see your name on the board, or maybe you win the tournament. If you win the tournament, maybe you get a magazine article or a newspaper article. Okay, so now, I saw that guy at the dock and then he won this tournament. Okay, well, that's 2. And then it needs to happen 5 more times for that person to put it together that they should call you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So now I think that, kind of like when we were kids and there were 3 channels on television, and it was 369, and you could turn it to 54 or 61. So you actually had 6 channels. Kind of, you had 6 opportunities for some sort of entertainment, and the radio and newspapers and magazines.
Yeah.
That was it.
You knew you had your captive audiences there.
You could go to the library. Yep. You could actually go and check out a physical book at the library. But even audiobooks weren't a thing that much there. Fast forward to today, you have 3,000 channels. You have some magazines left. You have conventional television, cable television. You have OTT platforms. You have YouTube, Vimeo, that kind of stuff. You have a whole bunch of social media platforms. You have apps on the phone. You have the public library. You have on and on and on down the line.
Unlimited.
It is completely unlimited. So when you look at the way that you used to spend the budget, or the options that were available to you before, it was print, TV, and radio.
Yep.
Okay, so you had 3 choices. Maybe billboard, right? Maybe park bench.
Yeah, we still spend money. Yeah.
Yeah, so you
and those were the non-traditional.
Yeah, so you have those, and that's counting on one hand.
Yeah.
Fast forward to today, you have
thousands of,
it's not even thousands, it's billions of opportunities. So when someone says, we want to spend more in digital, like, that is a real question. Like, okay, what does that mean?
Now we're starting here. Where do we go from there?
Exactly. So I don't know. It's a very strange time. It's a very exciting time. It's a time that has completely limitless possibilities. But I think with limitless possibilities comes a lot of confusion, comes a lot of people that dive down a road that ends up drying up.
Oh, absolutely.
Which you and I could be on that road right now.
You
we
never
don't even
know.
know it, right? Just like MySpace looked really good, and then all of a sudden it's gone. Just like Blockbuster Video looked really good, and then all of a sudden it's gone. Just like Vine was
absolutely
completely
millions
amazing.
of followers overnight gone.
It was so amazing. I loved Vine.
Yep.
And boom, it's
Poof.
gone somehow. So where do you see the future of? It doesn't even have to be where people spend their money. It's more like, who could have forecasted the popularity of Instagram? Who could have forecasted the popularity of Twitter?
If you remember, Instagram was mocked because it was a photo editing app.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook spent $1 billion on it, and they said, "It's crazy. All that is a photo editing app." And now look at it. Yeah, who could? And that's the thing. Everything you're saying right now, and it's the phrase I use. I'm sure others. It's the wild, wild west. Anything goes anywhere at all times. So yeah, it's got. And think about our kids. The stuff that they have flying at them from left and right. I mean, it was, like you said, it was simple for us. We watched a couple channels. Once you got into ESPN, and your fishing shows are obviously on ESPN. I mean, I didn't miss Walker's Cay Chronicles, or I didn't. All these different shows, I did not. I sat glued to that TV Saturday morning. Now they can watch it anytime they want. So it's totally flipped. But if you were to ask me to look into the future, I'm putting all my money into the big boys. It's Facebook, it's Google, it's Amazon. I mean, they are controlling everything. I think 95% of ad money now in digital media is between Facebook and Google, which is just insane. That means there's 5% out there for everybody else. So to me, it's be smart within. So Google's obviously YouTube, Facebook's got Facebook, Instagram, Twitter kind of is, again, an outlier for our industry in terms of that. And again, Instagram's smoking Snapchat in terms of just copying and doing exactly what they're doing. So to me, it is to focus on those big boys. So it's to focus on your Google ads and your Google, the words are and different features of Google. But then it's the Facebook and Instagram. I don't see them going anywhere. So to me, it's getting hyper focused on those and learning the insides and outs of those specific companies that control digital media. And if you can be an outlier and do different things within your ad revenue, and like I said, we have a website that has sponsors that get the eyeballs. But to me, yeah, it's you got to learn those and you got to master those. But then it's the offshoots like Waypoint TV. I mean, I think that's where the future really is that. My daughters are going to watch what they want to watch when they want to watch it. That's it. You don't need to overthink it. It's and it's not even. I don't even want to say it's the sub 20 generation now. It's 70-year-olds sitting on their mobile. I mean, my parents in their mid 60s, they'll make fun of us sitting around the couch. You're on your smartphone. Well, they're on their smartphone too. They're on their iPad. Yeah. It is life now in terms of where the modern world is. That what you see, what you want to see, you can get it at any point in time. And so you're not you're not stuck on whatever your TV has planned at that time. So it's an on-demand world. And so it's the niche sports. And I don't want to call fishing a niche sport, but if you love fishing, Waypoint TV has everything you could possibly ever want. Or you go to maybe this YouTube channel or whatever it is, you can find it at any time. So to me, it's focus on what you do and do it well. But then you better know the big boys and you better know Facebook and Instagram and you better know Google and you better know what they're doing. And the key to all that is you're in their sandbox. And I tell you, they can pull the plug on you at any time, like you said. So you better diversify. And to your credit, and following you for, I guess it's been 20, 25 years. I think the first ESPN competition with the different. I don't. What year was that? Was
Great
late
Outdoor
90s?
Games. That was 2000.
2000. So almost 20 years. You have constantly, and to me, when we first started talking as a fan and now a friend of yours. Seeing how you've diversified and thought ahead. I mean, even doing these podcasts, you are ahead of the game in terms of 95% of charter captains, because 95% of charter captains get their trips on their phone, try to organize it through their phone and go from there. And they don't have time. But now the guys that are really moving the needle, you see their social media presences are massive.
Yeah. But I don't know if I would be considered a charter captain. I barely guide it at all, which gives me time to do things like this. For your general standard charter captain. I just did a podcast with Russell Kleppinger. He caught 814 tarpon last night, or last night.
Saw the picture on Instagram.
That would be a great night, wouldn't it? Last year, which is a phenomenal year, and probably, I have no idea, but it could be some sort of a record. I mean, that's an amazing number of fish.
Almost 3 tarpon a day.
In order to get that many fish, you have to fish all the time. So Russell Kleppinger doesn't have time to do 100 podcasts a year.
Yep.
He probably doesn't have time to manage 2 social media accounts. So someone like that has to pick and choose where they're going to spend their time, because their time is an infinite resource. I mean, not an infinite, it's a finite resource.
Yes.
So he needs to spend his time guiding, and then somehow he needs to translate that into talking to the general population.
Yep.
He's choosing Instagram as a good place for that.
Absolutely.
And I think that it is a good place for that for him. But staying ahead of the curve, I think that this world, I'm fortunate that doing things like this helps the television business. It helps anything that we're doing, right? So this is an accessory, kind of an enhancement to what we're doing, where I think that a lot of people, if you're a charter guide and you think that you need a podcast and an Instagram page and a Facebook page and a blog and a website and you got to be on Twitter and you really need to be
how much time are you actually guiding
Facebook,
doing all that?
Yeah, and then you need to be on the radio shows and you need to do this. Eventually, with 10 things going on, you're not spending enough time on the water.
Yeah.
And spending the time on the water is truly the most important thing. Because if you actually do get the person to come fish with you, do you know what you're doing?
Yeah.
Right. And so
if you're not producing fish, you don't have a job.
I've talked about it a bunch of times on this podcast where you were talking about television flipped. Like, you used to be glued to Walker's Cay at 10:30 in the morning on a Saturday. And I was obviously glued there too, because I know what time it came on.
Yeah.
Now you can watch it anytime you want. And not only can you watch it anytime you want, you can watch anything anytime you want. So the model has completely flipped, just like a lot of other models have flipped. Another one that I talk about is how, people that lived in the country, they all worked on farms. They were super strong. They, would get home from work and or get home from school and football practice, and then they would go to work,
dark. Yep,
working,
absolutely.
throwing hay or something like that.
Yep.
When we would play football against those guys, they were bigger and stronger than us, and they had, country boy strength.
Absolutely.
And it's because they ate the food that came off the farms. They worked on the farms. They went to school. Going to school and playing football was a break from work, right?
Yeah.
Now,
Absolutely.
as you see, when strip malls invade those areas, the farms start drying up. Those people are now leading a completely different lifestyle. I'm sure there's still some people in those areas that are living on farms and working until dark, but for a lot of them, instead of working on the farm, they're working at the grocery store or at Walmart or somewhere else. And if there is even a grocery store, and it could be an urban food desert, and they're eating fast food a lot of times. And now when the city schools play the country schools, they murder them because the city schools are the ones eating organic food and
the biggest
having all this
strength
stuff.
is no longer their strength.
That's exactly right. Where it used to be, the country people were so strong and they were it was unnatural, right? But it was actually completely
all
natural.
Earned the old
It
school
was
way. Yep.
exactly natural. And we were just weak and eating processed foods and all that stuff. That model has flip-flopped too. So now you see that the model of being a fishing guide is that you have to have a glitzy website. You have to be able to look like you're out there all the time, as opposed to the person who is all out there all the time. Nobody even knows his name.
Well, and I say I'm going to say two things I say all the time. Perception is reality. So in social media, your perception is the reality, whether it's true or not. Fake it till you make it. I mean, Outdoors360 was nothing. And I literally, when I started that, reached out to every single person I ever posted individually, said, hey, can I post your picture? We're a new company. I'm just trying to get it out there. Now we get 100 messages a day saying, please post my picture. So it's crazy from where 5-6 years ago, where that came from. So, and perception is reality. But to me, it's a good point that you make about the charter industry. I guess there's almost two different charter captains in my. There's the established guys that know they're going to have 200 to 250, 300 trips a year because of the quality of fishing. So the main thing, anything you do, the main thing has to be the main thing. If you're a charter captain, it has to be fishing. If you can't find the fish and consistently catch them, you're not going to have a job. So keep the main thing the main thing. But then on the other side, these established guys that know they're going to have their core content. Then there's the other guys, the startups, and the guys that maybe don't have as much business. To me, they need to turn on that funnel and use that social media. And one of the first guys that I followed, and now I'm good friends with and fish with a lot, is Jason Stock. Jason was using social media way before any guys were, and he I don't know his numbers. I don't want to speak for him, but I know he gets probably well over 200 trips a year. Nick Stanzik, I don't know if I'm saying his name right out of the keys, another guy, and now he's turning on YouTube. So a lot of these guys, you almost have to train. It's the same with businesses. It's the same with these guys running their businesses. You have to all of a sudden switch your mindset and say, okay, I'm fishing. I'm doing really well. We're on a hot bite. I want to keep it going. But at the same time, this would make for some great social media or some great TV. Take out your phone. Like we were talking about our new iPhones. Mm-hmm. They're unbelievable. The last trip I took to the Bahamas with Sam Root and Mustad, he has probably $100,000 worth of equipment. He has me backpacking around. I pull out my new iPhone. The videos I was shooting on that at 60 frames per second, 1080p, were just as good as almost any of the cameras he had. So you have to, any of my clients that I have in digital and social media, I tell them the biggest issue you have in being successful in social media is turning your brain on to think like somebody from social media. Mm-hmm. So you asked very early on in this podcast, why do I think the way I do? I kind of think like I almost turn my head into just a social media machine in terms of what would people want to see or what's happening right now that's cool. And the best guys that they're the most entertaining, like Catch 'em All Fishing, this is random stuff you and I do 100 million times, but he's found a way to make it fun and thinks about it in a totally different perspective. So anybody that's listening to this from the outdoor world or the corporate world, whatever world, you have to flip your brain. When you see things going on, you have to process it and say, okay, that happens all the time, but most people haven't seen it. Let me video that. Like I posted a picture of a sand flea last night on Instagram. It's got over 1,000 likes and 300 comments. A sand flea. How many sand fleas have caught in my life? Millions. That's what we did at the beach. But people from all over the world are following it. So yeah, you have to, as a charter captain or whatever you do in your industry, and so some of our most popular videos in Outdoors360 are the guys that cut treetops, that climb these trees, and they're wearing GoPros now. It's unbelievable to see. You see it happen all the time from the ground, but all of a sudden you get that perspective. So yeah, you got to flip your mind to think, okay, what am I doing today? Even you coming up here on the podcast, I mean, maybe take a picture of your truck driving up, pulling in, saying, hey, I don't know, I'm pulling into Lake City. I don't know. I've never been here. Mm-hmm. So I'm meeting with Rob Chapman. Little things like that, when you just kind of throw out little bones, like when I did the Prince Edward Island trip this year, I documented the whole thing in my stories, and every story had 5,000 to 10,000 views, messages left and right. Can't wait to see if you catch one. So first 3 or 4 days of that trip, nothing. Day one, late in the day, we have a 600-700 pounder on, breaks off. They're sharing in my heartbreak. And so all of a sudden you have people pulling with you. And so I think that the key to me, the most successful people on social media or you're in your world, in the entertaining world and social media, is the familiarity, like you said, the 7 times, but being able to come across as an everyday guy to say, okay, I know I'm not any better than you, but I've got a big audience and I'm going to show you what I do and I'm going to make mistakes and you're going to learn with me. And so I think that people, when they feel that familiarity with you, all of a sudden buy into what you're doing and say, okay, I want to be a part of what this guy's doing. Let me help him. Let me do different things like that. So not everybody has that personality. To your credit, you do. And that's an innate thing that you can't teach, mm-hmm. but
that's a thing that's flipped too, because before, like when we first got on TV, the only reason that you could get on TV was because you had already been established as some sort of elite professional. Mm-hmm. And now it seems like some of the people that are the most popular are the ones like, say, a fluke master, Gene Jensen, who is purposely saying, look, I'm terrible at this, and I'm going to show you how I do it. You're going to learn with me. Yeah, and I'm going to, and since he's been doing the YouTube, he's a very good fisherman. Yeah. But he's not winning BASS tournaments. No. And
he's an everyday guy that's put a lot of time into it, and
he's also not fishing out of a $200,000 boat. He's fishing out of an aluminum boat, and he's more of the everyday. And I think that he captures the imagination. the other thing that we were talking about, we talked about 7 times, and then I don't think I ever got back to now. How many times does it take? 500?
Yeah. It's
5,000 times?
Because our kids' brains now, what they see every day. I mean, like you said, you think, but we had 3 channels, maybe 5 or 6. I didn't have cable TV till we moved to like our third. I think I was 13 or 14. I think I was in high school before I really started watching. I had to go to my friends' houses to watch ESPN.
Yeah.
So yeah, they get bombarded from every angle. So how many times I have to see it? It's probably thousands now.
Yeah,
before
so,
there's
I mean,
some
if
familiarity.
you wanted to just put some numbers on it, if you wanted to get 300 customers, you have to get 300 people in the past, 300 people to see your name 7 times.
Yep.
Or 150 people to book 2 days, or 100 people to book 3 days.
You run the
or
numbers.
50 people to book, whatever. And those 50 people have to see your name 7 times and be so enamored with what you're doing and what they and curious that they're going to come and book 4 or 5 days with you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, if you want that, you have to get those same 50 people to see your name 5,000 times. I don't know what the number is today, but maybe it is.
It's probably not
5,000
even quantifiable at this point.
So 50 times 5,000 is a big number.
Yeah.
And it just seems like the repetitive message of high quality is what makes it. But then the other thing that we were kind of talking about was how does someone have enough time to manage all of this stuff? And you're saying that the younger person that's getting into the business doesn't have any choice but to do this, because this is how you get your business these days, whether you're a fishing guide or a plumber or whatever.
If you're a startup.
You are a startup. You have to be in this. I mean, this is this world that we're living in of Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, YouTube, and on and on and on down the line is the television, radio, and print.
Yep.
That is today's world.
The future.
But there's just so many more options. Then there's a person that falls kind of in a wasteland of no man's land. If you take a fishing guide's example and a metaphor, maybe, you have these guys that are 50. They've been guiding for a long time. Most of their people were 30 years older than them when they first started.
Off.
Yes,
yep.
and they fished with them for 25
yep.
years. And now those people are 80 years old. They might be coming.
Yeah.
But they also might not be coming. But
yeah.
what else they're not doing is when they were 50 fishing with this 20-year-old kid, they were going to a lot of cocktail parties and they were telling all their friends about what they were doing, the country club or whatever. And you would see what would happen. You would go and you would have these hotbeds of, wow, Birmingham is a huge city for me. Why? Because you've got one main influencer in Birmingham that goes home and tells all his friends what's going on.
Yep.
And so you have 25 clients coming from Birmingham or Washington, state,
yep.
Coming to the
Making
Keys.
The trip.
And it's like, why is this happening? It's because you have an important influencer there. And then you get more people there. And now you have 5 people there that all love what you do. And all of their friends and relatives come to see you.
Yep.
So you can develop these things accidentally. Today, those people, all of those customers are dying off and not going to the cocktail parties and not the influencer that they once were.
No.
And so now these people haven't had websites. They haven't been on the edge of developing social media accounts, all this stuff. They don't even know how to turn on a computer. Yeah. You know why? Because they didn't need to until today.
Yep.
What does that person do?
That's a great point, because that is, and as you know, and several of my friends that I went to school with are charter captains, full-time charter captains. So I'm 40 now, but the guys that we took fishing, just like you said, that are now 55, 60, and some of them have been established. Todd Romine's another, but he's got a built-in clientele that loves him. But yeah,
they'll start dying off.
They're starting to die off. So where do they go? That's the $1 million question for the and as you know, that's part of the variable. The other part of the variable is the Captains for Clean Water. Their initiative is Titusville. I fished there 6 months ago. It's not the same fishery it was 2, 3, 10 years ago. It's not even close. So now you're making it even that much harder for guys in our industry, which is it's sad and depressing at the same time. It's the reality they're going to have to face. So I guess you could say I'm glad I'm not on that side of it. But part of what I've done with Outdoors360 is the guys that I fished with, Captain John Lulay out of Titusville. I funnel the good guides that I fish with that I really enjoy. Now, as you know, there's some guides that you wouldn't recommend to anybody once you fished with them once or twice. But the guys that I really like in the industry, we try to give them a platform and say, hey, use this guy, send them their direct. Because there's no charter there. If a guy is a full-time charter captain, he is not going to be rich. He is going to grind it all day, every day. He's going to put every money into that boat. The hours they put, it's insane. People have no idea what goes into being a full-time charter captain. So we try to give them a voice and get their platform out there. But Joe Schmo on the street that's like you said, kind of in the void, 50s is maybe not technically savvy. What's he going to do? I don't know. And that's an interesting point too. If I could segue into briefly Outdoors360, one of the potential avenues we're looking at is with Yentna, named after the Yentna River, but it's a charter captain booking platform software. And so trying to give them a voice and find trips for them. And it's one of the options that we're looking at with our pivot with Outdoors360 is, where do you go to find these guides? Well, let's help them. So there are going to be options out there, and so we're exploring that. And again, this is very early on in the podcast, so this, we'll see how that plays out. But there's got to be some avenues out there for those guys, but they're going to have to, it's some way, find out how to turn on digital media, whether it's through a website or through a search engine or whatever it might be, because there's definitely a void there.
Yeah, but then you see bright spots like you see a guy like Rowland Martin, who in his mid-70s just started a YouTube channel, and he's doing cool stuff. Like he's making duck calls and turkey calls and stuff like that on there. It's well done. Rowland's a very interesting person. We did a podcast with him, and he's a great storyteller. He has a lot of stories to tell because he has led an incredible life. But to see somebody like that embrace it and reinvent it.
Absolutely.
And I think he'll do very well with it.
Yeah.
I really do. I think maybe he may even find that he's doing better with that than he ever imagined that he's doing with it. But I think that whether you're a sponsor or a fishing guide or a plumber or an architect or whatever you are, this world of digital opportunities is also a world of digital challenges and a world of confusion, but it's also a place where you can become anything that you want.
That's a great point. To me, we've covered a lot of different bases and talked about the fear and the unknown, but to me it's exciting because you can make yourself whatever you want to be right now. So that guy who's 50 who's never done social media, maybe he's charming in a way he never thought he was charming, or maybe he's grumpy. I mean, you have to keep the main thing the main thing. If the main thing is your personality or if it's your fishing, focus on that and drive that home. And you can reinvent yourself. And some of these guys, as you know, too, in front of the camera and behind the camera, two totally different people.
Mm-hmm.
Blair Wiggins is an example to me. Blair is so laid back, talking to him in person, and then on camera, he's incredible. He just turns it on.
Man.
Yeah, he's like a professional wrestler. And he's got a huge following because of it, but he's so thoughtful and insightful when you talk to him behind the. So you don't know what you're going to be till you try it. I guess that's the main thing to me is you got to step out and try it, and you can't just ignore it and bury your head in the sand and say it's not going to. It's going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's happening. So,
but the other thing is that it's not going to happen overnight. Like you're not going to turn into the Mogan Man overnight. You're not going to be Black Tip H as you see him today overnight. It is probably years and years of incredibly disappointing views.
Absolutely.
Only 200 people watch that. I mean, and probably of those 200, 180 are robots, and my mom and her friends watched it. So that means that there's like 6 people that watch this thing. But it takes a lot of time and patience and consistency, I think, to develop that. But like when I leave here, I'm going to do another podcast with someone who became a professional backpacker.
Just incredible. 5 years ago, that doesn't exist. So
it doesn't exist, exactly. But you can
find your passion.
That's what's so fun and cool, and it's just that we live in this limitless world. That if you have a passion and you're willing to put in the work, and that's really the key. That's really the key. Is that there is a passion around anything. Like you can take the most unpleasant job there is.
Yep.
And if you're passionate about that and you're diligent about recording it and somehow coming up, being willing to play around with that format for a number of years and probably starve in the process if that's what you're really trying to do, or if you're not starving, then you're working another job and you're trying to do this at night and you're losing sleep, there's a sacrifice somewhere.
Absolutely.
And then if you're willing to be diligent and disciplined about doing that week after week after week, something will happen where one week you'll change that format slightly and you'll be like, oh, look,
something
people
clicked.
loved that.
Something
Wow,
turned.
do more of that. And that is obviously the secret to success, I think, not only on the internet and on digital media, but the secret to success, basically, it's been the secret to success for a long time.
It hasn't changed. Exactly. As much as things have changed, that has not changed. And if you look at the Alabama and Clemson college football or the Patriots, it's trust the process. There's no shortcut to get to where you want to go in digital, social media, or anything nowadays. You have to grind. That's what I always. It's a grind. It's a never ending grind. Like you said, sacrifice. I mean, I did not sleep at all the first couple of years Outdoors360 was around. I still have not made just a straight up check from Outdoors360, and we're 5 or 6 years in. Like you said, I work another full time job. This is what I do on the side. It's a 40-hour a week job minimum on the side. It's typically more closer to 80 in addition to my regular 40-hour job. So yeah, you see these glorious lives, these people you think go fishing all the time. I don't fish that much, but I make it look like I do. And the perception is, but I film a ton of content, but you have to absolutely grind, and it never stops. And there is no magic wand, and there's no money at the end of the rainbow within a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And even, here's the thing too, there's a lot of fool's gold in social media. You get one view that gets 100,000 or 500,000 views. I put a remora on my back and it had 750,000 views. Do you know what I made off of that? $0. It doesn't matter. But it got me a couple more followers. Those followers, then you could parlay into more followers. And then, like I said, ironically, Outdoors360 took off, but then the ability I had in the back end to run social media accounts took off because of what I was doing with my own social media. So a lot of it is you just find your passion. My passion is fishing, but my passion now is to kind of turn into social media as well, where I study it. I love it. It's fascinating to me. Like you said, you hit the nail on the head. Anything you do that is your passion can be turned into a career now. She backpacks. It's a great, now she makes a living as a professional backpack. There are so many niche things like that, and again, I think you have to be, the number one key to being successful is being honest. Know what you are, know who you are, know your strengths, know your weaknesses, but put it all out there. Don't be afraid to show people
that's what she has done. And she has really captured her audience, because before this girl that is the next on the podcast, Jessica Mills, she did the Appalachian Trail, the Pacific Crest Trail, and the Continental Divide Trail, what's called the Triple Crown of backpacking. And that's roughly around 8,000 miles of backpacking. She just decided she was going to do it and started in. What people might think is, well, she's been doing this all her life. Not the case at all. She decided that she was interested in doing it when she was 5 and didn't come back to that seed that was planted there, didn't fully germinate and break the surface until she's about 30. And she had never spent the night by putting the stuff on her back and walking and pitching a tent. And the first night she did that is the first night she was on the Appalachian Trail. And then she goes for 6 months and finishes the thing, comes back, and I don't know the rest of the story.
Yeah.
It's going to be very interesting to see how she figured out, okay, how can I take this experience? And what I think we're going to hear is the common theme that your weakness is your strength. The fact that she had never spent the night out there, and everybody's telling her, look, man, you're never going to make it. You've never even spent the night in a tent, and you're going to walk 2,000 miles, 2,500 miles.
You got no shot.
You've got no chance. Well, she didn't listen to those people. And she went out there and she started working these details out. So when she comes back, she's looking at this experience with a completely different pair of glasses on. Just like when you go out on the water and you put the polarized glasses on and you can see in the water and other people can't. And you're like, well, there's fish everywhere. Do you not see them? No, I don't see them. Well, you don't have the right glasses on. So she comes back and she's like, okay, there are other people out there that want to do something. They may not want to hike the whole trail, but they may want to take a weekend backpacking trip, and they don't have any experience. And I know exactly what that is. Yeah. Plus, I'm a woman that is a different perspective altogether than a man. Just a different perspective, absolutely. A different voice, not better or worse, just different. And so now she can come into that using what was her greatest weakness and it turns into her greatest strength. And so many of these success stories are like that. Like the fact that Blacktip H, his biggest weakness is that he doesn't own a boat, turns out to be his biggest strength. It's the craziest thing, man. It's the craziest thing. But there's so many people that want to do something, and they think, well, how am I going to do that? I don't have a boat. Well,
find a way.
He figured out how to do it. Somebody else, she figured out a way to do this without ever having spent the night on a trail before.
Yeah, and to that point, so I have a personal world record, IGFA world record, and it was caught from land. It was caught in the Santa Fe River. It was a Florida gar. I have a pending world record, I guess you could say, as kind of a guide with a friend fishing here off this lake behind us of a largemouth bass that not from a boat, from land. So yeah, don't turn your negatives into a positive. I mean, to me, that's the whole key to all of this is I don't have $100,000 boat or $250,000. I don't have any of that, but I've made contacts in the industry. I get to fish with Elliot Tudal, who you've had in your podcast, who catches these unbelievable sharks. He doesn't have a boat. He's fishing He's fishing from land or shore everywhere he goes. So
he's a little different in that he kind of social media and this world kind of offered up an opportunity to him on a silver platter. He catches this shark and it goes completely nuts, and then he's like, well, maybe I should do more of that. Obviously,
and he capitalized on that opportunity.
Right.
Exactly.
But it wasn't like, I want to be a professional beach shark fisherman. For his story, it wasn't like that. But there's so many people out there that say, I want to be a professional duck hunter. I want to be a professional backpacker. Well, man, our grandparents would have just thought, you're crazy. You're going to be a professional backpacker? What are you going to be carrying? Gold? Like, you're going to need something. You're going to have to be carrying something of value from one place to another. And there's no other way to get it there. And so somebody's going to pay you for that.
Exactly.
Like it was like a 1-to-1 thing. Like you've got to provide a service that gets you money.
Yep. And like I said,
today,
limitless is the word.
It's the same thing though. You're providing a service by doing your passion that other people find entertaining, or other people find educational, or other people find something of value. And the more people that find it of value, and the better the content, the better the message that you're putting out, I think the brighter your future.
Oh, absolutely. And it is. It's the theme, I guess, for this is it's limitless. Right now, this whole world we live in is completely limitless with what you want to do, where you can get your message out to. And even going back to your talking about the country boys in terms of how they grew up on the farm, those same guys now that are growing up also 20 years ago didn't have social. They didn't know what else was out there. They only knew that world. Now you know everything everywhere. Today's generation, and again, I hate saying today's generation because I'm 40, you're 50. My dad's 65. They can reach out to anybody at any time with social media. So today more than ever, there's no excuse to be held back from doing anything. Anybody with a smartphone can make a name for themselves doing anything. So, I mean, I'm proof. The proof's in the pudding. I was nothing 5 years ago in terms of a social. I didn't even have an Instagram, and now, like I said, personally, there's almost 1 million followers between my accounts, and then on the back end, there's another 4 to 5 million that I'm kind of on the ghost side of it running. So, you can create anything you want if you like. The key is finding your passion. If you're not passionate about it, you're not going to spend the time to do it. You're not going to see it through. You're not going to go through the grind. But if you have the passion for something and you want to do it, do whatever it takes. And you're not going to, like you said, you're not going to see a check for a long time. It's not about the money. It's about your passion. If you do what you love and you do it well, the money will find you. And so I think that's the theme. If you're going to put a bow on all this, that's kind of where it wraps up. And luckily for you and I, it's fishing based and we get to do what we love. So,
dude, I don't know that I could have possibly come up with a conclusion any better than that. So we're going to stop right there. The whole podcast has been about following your passion. Your passion is Outdoors360. How do people find you? Where do they go? Obviously, they look up Outdoors360.
Right.
You've made it as easy as possible. But
any social media, just look up Outdoors360 and you'll find us.
Okay.
Or Outdoors360.com. That easy.
Well, Rob, thank you very much for sitting down with us. I think that we've given people a lot of things to think about.
I appreciate it.
All right. See ya.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Rob. That was an excellent conversation. I really enjoyed my time with you. Guys, go to all the different social medias that we're on. Saltwater Experience, Saltwater_Experience, Tom_Rowland. You can follow us and see what we're doing, what I'm doing with the podcast. Love to have you over there. If you could, rate and review the show on iTunes, that would be awesome. And send me an email at podcast@saltwaterexperience.com if you want to. Otherwise, I will see you next week with another amazing guest.